Today I'm going to take these giant feathers here on these traditional arrows that I've got in my hands here. I'm going to use this burner behind me, and we're going to cut some cool shapes into the fletchings themselves and make my very own feathers on my traditional axis arrows here. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video today. I'm going to take you outside and cut these feathers using a feather burner and show you the end product and how cool it is to make your own feather design. So like I said in the intro there, today what we're doing is I'm just going to take these arrows that I've fletched up with these huge 5 1/4 inch feathers that are supposed to be burned or fletched up as flu feathers, but that's not what I'm going to be doing with them today. I'm actually going to be using this feather burner. Not sure if they still make these, and if I can find these, I'll put links in the description below of the video because they are very cool, although about 10 years ago, I only found that there was like 3 or 4 left in existence for sale that were new. So I don't know if they still exist or not, so forgive me. But I'm using some old school stuff here that literally burns the feathers, and you get to take this metal ribbon, essentially, and bend it into whatever shape you want, and then it will cut the feathers exactly that way. It smells horrendously bad, so if you have one of these or you've never used one of these, and you're going to be doing it for the first time, do it outdoors, or at least make sure you don't have a spouse around or a spouse at all, because if you do it inside, the smell is horrendous and it will take forever to get out of the house. So do it in your garage, do it outside, do it somewhere that you don't care what kind of lingering smell it is. It's worse than burnt hair, but it is very cool because you get to make your own feathers. So I'm not going to do it in here at the bench. I would love to. It'd be better for video quality. I'm actually going to take you outside in the greenhouse. It is raining a little bit out there, so we're going to do our best to manage that. Normally I'd just set up a table and go do it outside, but it is raining, like I said. So I'm going to take you out there and get the camera set up, show you how I will make the actual ribbon form into the shape that I want, and then get to burning these 6 arrows that I've got all fletched up so I can shoot them out of my traditional bow when it does show up. It is coming. I don't know when, but traditional content is coming to this channel. So if you're new to it, do subscribe, hit the notification bell, please. It genuinely helps this channel out, and you know, I'm trying to grow it as best I can organically and just do what I can for the archery community and have fun along the way. So with that being said, let's get outside and get to burning these feathers. Okay, so we're out here in the greenhouse. Anybody wants any dragon fruit plants, let me know. Anyway, step 1, don't do this part plugged in. This is a transformer, and when you have it plugged in, these 2 posts, here and here, are live. And when they're live, you don't want to be making connections, because when you do, this thing will heat up. And I don't know if it'll short out or who knows what if I were to do this. I don't even want to find out. So step 1, don't plug it in. Step 2 is you have this ribbon here. This ribbon is what does everything, and it gets held by these bolts, and this thing turns red hot. And then you take your arrow, you put it in the knock receiver here, and you basically spin it like so, and it cuts off the feathers. So what you want to do first is basically get a rough idea of what kind of shape you want, and then go from there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little spacer here is clamping this portion of the actual ribbon in place, and then I'm going to start to shape it. And what I need to do is I need to get the arrow basically in place when it's in the knock receiver, and have this ribbon come very, very close to the shaft but not touch the shaft itself, because you want it to burn down here at near the base, starting whatever shape you want to cut and then ending also near the shaft. So I'm just going to bend this ribbon at roughly the spot which I think it's going to need to be bent at. So I'm going to start making a shape, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. This is just going to be some sort of recreational type of fun vein feather thing. So I'm going to make a relatively flat back half, come up quite tall. Maybe I'll make a dip, a curve or something, and have like 2 distinct points or something. I don't know. Just making this up as I go along, and if you're doing the same, you'll do that as well. Now, when I shot indoors in competitions, I would actually maximize the surface area of the vane or the feather on purpose and try to make something that was really as high profile as I could, so I still had clearance, but as long of a vane as possible so it had as much time to grab the air and spin it. It was an advantage, to say the least, and I really found that I shot really well when I had my own custom feathers burned for indoors, and so I figure I might as well take this little bit and do it on my trad arrows too, because it's a lot of fun. So as you can see, I'm kind of making a rough shape here. I'm starting to figure out what I'm looking for and come up with something kind of fun and different, just because it's trad, so I guess, you know, you're supposed to have some fun at this, right? And once I get this in place over on the other side, I then need to kind of finalize the alignment, just to make sure everything's not in the way or touching things that I don't want them to. I do need to make the profile a little shorter. If I put it in this way so you can see what I'm doing, you'll see how it's just missing here. It's just missing the shaft here and just missing the shaft here. It's actually spaced out just a little bit. The reason it's spaced out a little bit is because you have to also make sure you're clearing the quill down on the actual shaft, the arrow itself, because you can't burn that. It doesn't want to burn. Only want to burn the actual light, fluffy parts of the feather themselves, and not the quill. So now that I have it basically set up where it's pretty close but not touching, and I have the rough shape that I like to see, I don't know what I'm doing here and I'm just kind of winging it. So I hope it'll look good. It's a different, unique shape. I think it's kind of neat, and it's mine. And no one else has it. I just made it just now, so clearly no one else does. Now that everything's tight and snug, and I'm confident that everything will clear just fine. Okay, now that I have my shape all ready to go, I'm going to plug this in, and you'll see this thing basically get red hot as it starts to heat up. It's smoking a little bit because it's burning the oils off that my skin put on it, and that thing will continue to heat up. It's turning gold, starting to get red hot. What you want to do is make sure that your feathers are all nice and smoothed out, nice and smooth as much as possible, and you can see this thing is starting to glow red, or at least I can clearly see it. And you want to make sure you make full contact into the knock receiver every single time, and it's kind of scary and weird because that thing's glowing red, and all you do is you just rotate the arrow. Generally I only do it once around, and now you kind of just brush it like this, knock off the high spots, and you take a look at it. And wow, that looks interesting to say the least. Might be a little bit too close to the shaft there. As you can see, I've got a little bit of burning going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this then, kind of let it cool, and I'm going to actually move the back part a little bit further away from the shaft. Potentially, this thing heated up and expanded, and actually, because when things heat up, they get bigger, and it probably spaced it out a little bit too close to the quill, and it melted that quill off down in the back there. And good God, does it smell horrendously bad right now. Yeah, that's quite the feather. Probably too big. Maybe I need to make it a little smaller here. And maybe that's what I'll do once this thing cools down. Try to shrink down the profile a little bit, because it's a little tall. It's a bit much. It's a bit much, but it's still cool. And you can make these adjustments and do whatever you want on your own time with your own arrows. I think it's very cool. So we're just going to call that one a bit of a dry run, and we're going to do that over once this thing cools down. Change the shape slightly so it's a little bit lower profile, and then go from there. Cool to the touch, which is good. Okay, I'm happy with that now. We'll see what happens, and hopefully it looks a little bit better. I think it's going to work out much better. I definitely didn't have enough clearance back here, and it touched the quill, so that's why it kind of charred the back of the quill on this one, and it made it, you know, kind of gross looking. But it'll be much better now. And, you know, in theory, I guess you could take one of the cutoffs and check it, and it's definitely hot. It wants to burn. So I'm going to do this now. Again, make sure everything's nice and smooth, because you can see there's a little bit of separation on this one. You just try to smooth it out, make everything look nice as possible. Sometimes it just doesn't work, especially if you got an old batch of feathers like I do here, but you can manage and do the best that you can. Get it in place. Now that's kind of cool. Very low profile, very different looking. I'm gonna roll with that. That looks pretty neat. And you can just go like that, knock off the little bits of burnness, and call it a day. So we're gonna roll through and do the next few. Sometimes the feathers get stuck on it like that, and you need to blow them off, otherwise it'll just sit there and smolder. More of the lovely smells will just waft into your nose. It's been a few years since I've done this, and I'm going to redo this one that's huge, cut it down a little bit. It'll probably not have the exact same shape as the others because the back part has already been cut. So it's not quite the same, but it looks very similar. Now that I'm done with the 6 arrows, unplug this thing, and you can see how these two are slightly different, especially in the back, because again, like I said, this side got burnt because I didn't look close enough. But these ones are all identical. So what I'm going to do now is reposition the camera so I can stand up and give you a better look at these awesome custom feathers that I just burned. So I really regret that they don't have smell-o-vision invented yet, because it's lovely. Let me tell you, it's lovely. But the result is better than the smell, I promise. It looks really cool, very different shape. It sure is a huge transformation from what they were when they were massively huge. And they're mine. They're mine and only mine, and no other shape like it. There's similar shapes out there, but nothing exactly like this, because I made it myself right here on camera. And you can see how easy it is and how quick it is. It's very fun because, like I said, it just makes it unique. It's your own feel, and I really like doing this kind of stuff. I found it to be very advantageous as well when competing, because I could make a very high-profile vein, or a medium profile vein that would clear my bow, but it was basically right to full height, full length, and then back down. So that way it grabbed as much air as possible and steered the arrow exactly how I was hoping. And it worked out quite well, and I shot several tournaments very well and shot lots of scores that were very good with those arrows. So I've been very happy with them. But now I have my very own arrow, trad arrow, with some custom feathers. And yes, it's not a traditional arrow because it's still carbon, but these are pretty dang trad to me, or at least they have my own flavor to them. So now I need to glue in some inserts and wait for my bow to arrive, and hopefully it'll be sooner than later. If you enjoyed this video, consider sharing it if you wouldn't mind, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button, because I'm working on all sorts of different types of content these days. Trad content is incoming, and I really enjoy making you a better archer.